when having tough conversations is hard. Confrontation is not very easy for everybody. And when I say confrontation, I don't mean like me go, come to the girl and make her know how she did make me feel type of confrontation. Just having to have tough conversations that make us feel vulnerable, that make us feel susceptible to rejection, to pain, to hurt. It's very tough. And if it's hard for you, you're not alone. It's hard for a lot of people. And it may not be every conversation, but we've all had conversations or have to have conversations that we don't want to have or that we're afraid of having because we might lose someone or we might lose a friendship or we don't really know what the outcome is. So if you're in a bind and you find that you're having a hard time having tough conversations or a tough conversation with someone, this is something that I found, or three things that I found have helped me. One is to write an epistle. Write an epistle and send a text message or email or whatever it is. Get everything out that you need to get out and share it with the person. Because the thing about tough conversations is if you do not prepare prior, you're going to end up just having a reactionary exchange. And when you have an exchange where you're reacting to what I'm saying and I'm reacting to what you're saying, it's just reacting, it's not constructive. So I don't get to get my point across. You don't get to get your point across. We have no resolve. We spend all this time talking about essentially nothing and getting nowhere. And that's not the point. The point is that we want to come off of the phone, come out of the conversation or the discussion feeling like we were both understood and that there's a step to take after this. So don't feel silly for not making the call. It don't mean that you're not strong enough or you don't have what it takes. The point is to get resolve. However you can achieve it, that's what matters. So write your epistle, send it in your WhatsApp, send your text message, and send your email. If somebody cares, they're going to read it. Maybe they'll be annoyed, Lord God, shall send me this long everlasting something. They might feel somewhat cornered because they have to hear everything that you have to say without kind of rebutting. But if you're having a really hard time having the conversation, send the epistle. The second is to focus on how you feel or how you were made to feel more than what actually happened. And that's very important because when you're in a conversation and you're saying to somebody, this is what you did, this is how you did it, this is how it came across, it comes off like you're attacking them. And if you're attacking somebody, their natural reaction is to be defensive. Again, that's not going to get you resolve and that's not going to get you what you need. When you say to somebody, when you did this to me, it made me feel this way. When you neglected to do this, this is how it made me feel. Because of this, I am feeling this way. People listen. They listen to people's pain, to people's vulnerabilities. You hear when somebody says how something makes them feel versus when they're attacking you and saying, this is what you did. So even though that's hard, especially in an exchange, and if the exchange gets heated, try to constantly redirect yourself and say, listen, when you didn't pay me back, it made me feel like you took advantage of me. It made me feel like you don't respect me, like you don't value our friendship and you don't value our relationship. It made me feel like I can't trust people, not just you. It impacted me in a negative way and it is impacting our relationship because it makes me feel really badly. And that takes vulnerability. You don't have anything to prove. You don't lose anything by saying to somebody that they affected how you feel. That's totally normal. You're saying that anyway when you're going after people and you're shouting after them and you're badding them up. Even if you're not using the words, you are communicated that they have impacted you. So don't be afraid to be vulnerable. Or rather, be afraid to be vulnerable and be vulnerable anyway. Don't be afraid to say how something made you feel and try to hold on to that during the conversation. The last is to prepare talking points. Just do it. It sounds silly. You're going to risk having a meaningless conversation if you don't. So if you know that this is what happened and this is how you made it feel and after the money was taken and you didn't get it back, this is how it came across, put down the points that you want to hit on and dedicate yourself to getting through those points. Start the conversation by saying, listen, John Doe, if you would give me the opportunity, I'd really like to speak. Just don't say anything, and then after I'll allow you to speak and I won't say anything, and then we can get to the end of this. If the person wants to have resolve, if they care about you, they're going to want to have resolve and they should be able to meet you halfway. And it should be an exchange that's fruitful and honest. If you cannot have a tough conversation with somebody, you are building a relationship or a friendship on something that is false. You have that thing that's looming over you constantly, that you haven't discussed, that you haven't talked about, that is constantly in the back of your mind and constantly having you question, how authentic is our relationship if I can't come to him or her and say, yo, this made me feel away? It's always going to be hanging over your head. It's not enough to just feel like, okay, we squash it. Squashing don't really work. If you're just burying or digging something underneath the surface, it's always there, hovering, just waiting for an opportunity to unearth itself. So if you can't have the tough conversations one-on-one, on voice, on phone, just use those tips, write your epistle. When you can have a conversation, just prepare so that it becomes something constructive and not argumentative. Hope that was helpful. And don't forget to like, follow, and share.